Hey, family, welcome back to the Author's Corner podcast, where we believe we are kingdom scribes and our stories have the power to change the world. So I am glad that you have joined me for episode 3. And tonight, because it is tonight, it's nighttime when I'm recording this. So whenever you are watching, it may be nighttime, daytime, morning, whatever for you. But tonight, I'm going to talk about writing from a place of healing and testimony. So if you watched episode 2 where I talked about overcoming writer's block, then you know that at the end I was like, ooh, this might be a little heavy one for us. Because I know what that feels like. So today we're going to have a conversation, not just about writing techniques, not just about publishing strategies, but about the heart behind the words. We're going to talk about how to turn pain into purpose through your writing. So, we have to be honest. Some of the most powerful books were not written from comfort. I know mine wasn't. The Reflection of Me, this book right here behind me, it was not written in comfort. It was not. I was going through healing and deliverance while I was writing the book. So this topic right here hits home. So those books were written from survival, they were written from healing, and they were written from people's testimonies. And so we're going to dive into it a little bit more, and we're going to talk about, again, writing from a place of healing and testimony tonight. So go ahead and get everything you need to help you stay engaged with the podcast. So your favorite drink, snack, notebook, pen, whatever you need, go ahead and get what you need and come back and join me for an amazing conversation. We are kingdom scribes, writing heaven's design, called to speak, called to shine. Our stories will change the world in time. All right, welcome back. So let's go ahead and get into the first topic. So the first topic is writing can be therapeutic. And just a disclaimer, you may see a little bit of my phone in the corner. Like I said last time, this is where my notes are. I got to go with my notes, okay? So you're going to see a little phone action, but it's okay. Don't get distracted. Just focus in on me. And if you're watching this on, you can watch it on Spotify. So yeah, don't get distracted. You just, focusing on me. And then if you're one that's listening on Spotify, come on over to YouTube, so that way you can see it. Well, you should be able to see the videos on Spotify now. I don't think they change anything to audio, but hey, join us. But still come on over to YouTube to subscribe to the channel, okay? I can't really talk to you guys in any form of comments over there on Spotify, unless you leave one. So I don't think people leave comments on Spotify. I don't think, but you can leave all the comments you need to leave on YouTube. So come on over, join the Kingdom Scribe community over here on the Author's Corner podcast on YouTube. Okay, that was a little ad. So now, I'm not saying that writing replaces professional therapy. So that's not what I'm saying. So if you have a therapist or you have a life coach, you have some mentor, whoever is walking you through your healing journey, your deliverance journey, continue to connect with those people. Do not say, Tiffany said that all I need to do is write and I can heal. That is part of the process. That is not the process. Okay. So continue to take, have them sessions and group sessions or whatever you're doing. Continue to do what you are supposed to be doing so that way you can be healed and whole. So I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying writing replaces professional therapy, but I am saying writing is one of the most powerful healing tools God has given us. It's just a tool. It is not to replace what God has put in your life or told you to do or instructed you to do to walk with you down this healing journey that you are walking down. So when you write, you slow down your thoughts. You give language to your emotions. You confront what you've been avoiding. And you release what's been sitting heavy in your spirit. So I'm gonna say that again for those that may need to be taking this down as notes, okay? So when you write, here are the 4 things that can happen. You slow down your thoughts. You give language to your emotions. You confront what you've been avoiding. And you release what's been sitting heavy in your spirit. These are things we carry that we don't even realize are wounds until we start writing about them. And for me, when I started writing my book, The Reflection of Me, of Finding You and God Through the Pain, there were some memories that I didn't know that I had suppressed so deep within my heart and my mind, to the point to where it was like I had amnesia to those events in my life, that God had to dig deep to get those memories and those emotions up. Or someone was sealed behind a door, so just sealed in so hard, like the door could not be opened, like that God had to be the battle axe to tear it down, so that what was behind that door could come out, so that I could be free, I could be healed. And so I can understand that place, because it's like, the trauma is the trauma. You don't want to deal with it. It's enough of having to replay what you went through with a person that you felt like should have been safe, a person that you felt like should have loved you or cared about you, and then it's like, wow, you're still trying to process that wow factor of, they really did this to me. They really violated me. They really hurt me. They really disappointed me. They really threw me under the bus. And so you really have to process that part, and then not to mention what happened. And so sometimes we kind of get, stuck in one place, and the rest of it just kind of gets buried. So you may think you're writing a chapter, but what you're really doing is processing grief. You may think you're outlining a book, but what you're really doing is forgiving someone. And when I got to the end of my book, I forgave, because I didn't want to hold unforgiveness for that person in my heart. So I forgave, especially when God, through me writing my book, taught me about the importance of not harboring unforgiveness in my heart, how that separates me and him when I'm harboring unforgiveness. And like here recently, he showed me a visual of what that looks like. It's like he's sitting on the throne and I'm at the foot of the throne, and I'm trying to talk to God, and I'm trying to give him my prayer requests. I'm trying to, let him know what's on my heart. I'm laying everything out on the altar. I'm laying everything at his feet. And there's a thick plexiglass between us. And he's on the other side, like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Because my unforgiveness, what he was given in that example, in that vision, was that my unforgiveness was so thick that he couldn't hear. He couldn't hear. And I know somebody was like, well, he's all knowing, all seeing, all hearing God. Not when you harbor unforgiveness. So when I was writing my book, about the end, I don't want to say, was it all the way at the end? Kind of close to the end. Then he started working on my heart and started to help me to understand the fruit of forgiveness and how unforgiveness would separate me from him. And I know somebody, Bible scholar, would they say nothing would separate you from God. No, not saying that I don't have access to him, but he can't hear me. It's putting a wedge between us. It's causing division. That's what I mean by separate. So, forgiving someone is major. Processing grief, that's major. And while you're writing that book, God is healing you on the other side of that. See, you may have thought that all you were doing was writing this book. All you were doing was being obedient to God and doing what he told you to do. But no, he used the book as a setup so that he can do deeper work in you. Because if it was just him coming to you and say, hey, I want to heal your heart, you probably would have been like, you know what? I ain't ready for that yet. I don't want to do that. just yet. I don't want to kind of think about all of what happened just yet. I'm not ready to process this grief right just yet. I'm good of where I am. But and then sometimes people go through things and they're like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm on, I'm good." Like they feel that they're healed, and God is like, "No, you just covered everything up and just kept it moving." And so here comes the book, and he's like, "Look, I need you to write about this. I need you to tell this part of your story." And it's a setup to help you heal. So writing helps you organize chaos, make sense of pain, identify patterns, and it helps you to see how God was present even when you didn't realize it. And I know for me, there were times where I look back on my life and I'm like, God, you're saying you never left me. You said that you would never forsake me, but I don't see you here. I don't see you. I don't know. I don't know where you were. Were you on your throne looking down? I'm not sure, but I don't think you were right there with me. And then he would, through healing, through the writing of my book, he showed me, oh, that was me. When this happened, that was my hand that did that. Oh, when this happened, that was me sending an angel to intersect here. When this happened, oh, that was me also protecting you. When this happened, it's me again, and he's showing me in different ways how he showed up during that time. And I'm like, God, I didn't realize it. Oh, when this person showed up for you, oh, that was me. When you felt like you was by yourself or you felt like you didn't have what you needed, and then all of a sudden you got this phone call from this person just out of nowhere. They didn't know anything about what was going on, but they called you to see what you needed. That was me. And he started to just run the tape back and just like me. Yeah, that was me. But I don't think that if I never wrote my book, if I kept continuing to stay in Hesitationville, yeah, I created a town out of Hesitationville, then I would have never gotten to the place of knowing God in a deeper way. And I'd have been still stuck in a place of thinking that he forgot, he forsake me, that he left me, he wasn't there for me, he just wanted me to suffer, like nothing goes good in my life, like I'm just seeing everybody win and I'm losing. Like I would have stayed in that mindset if I did not allow him to heal me and make me whole, and for him to show me like, hey, yeah, this happened, I didn't want it to, but of course I have given y'all free will, so it happened, you didn't deserve it, but I'm going to heal you from it. And I'm going to use it for your good. So you're going to have to start to write the book. And I have some clients that have had to do a hard thing by telling their story. And they're like, it's like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I want to put it out. I don't know if I can push past chapter 3. I just don't know. And I have to help them and encourage them and motivate them to let them know somebody is on the other end of the story. Like I have to remind them of the analogy that I use, that your book is the guide to somebody's journey. Your book is the roadmap. Your book is the GPS for somebody to get from point A to point B. But if you don't write the book, they don't have a map and they're lost. Or they're just standing there trying to figure out which way to go and can end up choosing the wrong way. So I know that you may feel like, I don't want to deal with the pain. I don't want to deal with that trauma again. I don't want to deal with those memories. But somebody needs you to deal with that. Somebody needs you to choose to be healed. Choose you. And say, hey, I need you to heal and get whole and be better, because I need you to tell me how you did that, because on my end, it seems as if it's not possible. When God is telling you it's possible, let's do the work. So here's something important. Your first draft is not for the world. It's for you. So when you are on your computer on your laptop, maybe on your phone, however you write, maybe, handwriting out. That first draft is just for you. Just write. Just freestyle write. Write it all down. Get it out on the page. Get it out on the laptop, the tablet, the computer. Get it out. Pour your heart out. Allow things to come to surface. There was some times to where I was writing that I had to stop because all I could do was just cry. I was just bawling. But I had to get it out. And once I got it out and I cried out and I poured it all out, I felt better. I felt free. Because I'm like, I didn't realize all this stuff was still in me. I'm thinking I'm good because I done moved on. I'm remarried. I'm doing a whole nother thing. I'm in a whole nother state. Like, I'm living life. So there should not be any residue or remnants of anything from my past situation in me, because outside looking in, I'm doing pretty good. I'm straight until I started writing. So don't write your first draft trying to sound polished. It's just your first draft. You need to get everything out on the page. You need to be able to process through some things. Because you may have to go deeper into something, but just the surface thing that you wrote about that topic or that situation is a lot. It may be hard just mentioning that person's name, let alone writing it down. And so now you got to process through those things. And that's what your first draft is. It is the space and place for you to be able to write out everything and write out it unapologetically, not trying to make it all grammar correct and sentence structure correct and all of that. No, you're not at that place. You're just writing it out. You're getting everything out. So write it trying to, you want to be honest. Yeah, you want to be honest. So don't try to sugarcoat it. Don't try to make it be polished. Don't try to make it ready for the printer or for the publisher. No, just be honest. Be honest. Your honesty is what your readers are looking for. Your honesty is what your readers are trying to connect to. So be honest, but you have to first be honest with yourself. Because freedom and healing does not come from sitting around doing the shoulda, coulda, wouldas and trying to sugarcoat things or overlook things or bury things. Like, you'll never heal that way. You have to be honest, even when it hurts. You have to be honest, even when you have to take accountability for the pain that you endured. Because that was one thing I had to do as I was writing my book. God started to reveal to me things that I ignored that maybe could have helped me avoid the relationship that I was in. And then he also showed me my heart posture at the time. And I had to take accountability for the pain that I endured. Not saying that what he did was right. It wasn't. But there were red flags that I pushed to the side, all in the name of love. So ask yourself, what really hurt? What did you learn? Where did God meet you? Ask yourself, what do I want someone else to know if they were walking this road? That's you thinking about your reader and looking at your book as their roadmap. Healing writing is raw, but it's refined. And sometimes the breakthrough happens in private before the book ever reaches the public. Because you have to allow the healing to take place, because when you go to these book signings, when people are asking you to come to speaking engagements and come on this, do this interview, that interview, do this magazine article to talk about your book, you're going to have to be in a place and space to where you're going to have to be able to talk about your story without breaking down, without it being too much, without it being extremely heavy. Like, you may have to hold back a little tear or two, but you're not falling out and just boo-hooing and all of the things. You have to be able to be healed and whole. So that way, when somebody asks you questions about your story, you're not offended. You're not snapping at the person. You're not, kind of standoffish, but you're ready to tell your story because you know that as a kingdom scribe, your story is going to change the world. So let's talk about handling vulnerable. Let's do this again. Part 2. Okay. Let's talk about handling vulnerable stories with care. Okay, I got it, y'all. So let's talk about something very important, and it's wisdom. You have to use wisdom. Just because something happened doesn't mean it needs to be shared immediately. And that's where you have to take your story back to God and say, okay, God, you want me to write about my life. You want me to write my story. But what part of my story do you want me to write about? What is it that you want me to include in this book? Because there may be some things that God is saying, hey, that's book number 2. I don't want you to put that out right now. I need you to talk about this right now. So you don't have to put all of your information and all of your business out there. They may never know. Your readers may never know that part of you. You only want to release what God tells you to release. Right? When writing from pain, you have to ask, am I healed enough to tell this story? Or am I still bleeding? So you don't want to put yourself out there and you got an open wound. That's when you have an open wound. If you think about it in the natural, if you have an open wound and you're going into different spaces and places, it's prone to get infected because of the germs in the atmosphere. So some wounds you can't just leave open and go anywhere. And that's the same way with the wound of your soul, the wounds of your heart. You can't just put it in a book and then just go in front of somebody and you're still bleeding. You cannot handle talking about this situation. You can't handle somebody even mentioning that person's name. You can't handle somebody being on the opposite side and maybe criticizing you about something. You don't have the capacity. So you have to ask yourself these 2 questions. Am I healed enough to tell this story? Or am I still bleeding? And you need to be honest with yourself. If you're still bleeding, then you may not need to talk about that. And that's why I say, take everything back to God. Because that's what I did. I'm like, God, what am I writing about? And he gave me the points within the outline, and then he helped me to fill it in. And every time I got to an end of a chapter, I literally heard a door close, like boom. Every time, boom. And that was God's way of letting me know it's finished. Don't go back in there adding nothing. Don't go back in there taking nothing out. It's done. Leave it as is. So there's a difference between writing from a scar and writing from an open wound. If you're still deeply triggered while writing it, it may mean you need more time, you need more prayer, more counsel, or even professional support before publishing it. I had a client that we worked on her book for 2 years because it was a hard thing to talk about how she experienced her family. She was still healing. She was still trying to process things. She was still trying to understand why things happened the way they did. And yes, we got the book finished. It is finished. And yes, I have to motivate her along the way to let her know, hey, look, it's out. It needs to get in the hands of your reader. But if this was a space and place to where she was like, okay, I'm still healing from this, then she may have to delay it because people are going to ask questions. You can't put your book out there and think that people are not going to ask you questions. They're going to ask questions. And you may be saying, well, I ain't going to do a book signing. I ain't put my book out there all like that. Just the fact of you writing a book and whatever you've written about your family, your friends, anybody's going to support you, and they're still going to ask you questions. And you have to be in a place and space in your mind and your heart to know, am I mature enough to answer those questions and have this conversation? Or am I still tender in that area? So before publishing your story, people will ask. They're going to ask questions. They're going to form their opinions. They're going to maybe misunderstand, and they're going to judge. They are. So before you publish that book, think about that. People are going to ask questions. People are going to form their opinions. People are going to maybe misunderstand you. And then some are going to judge you. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for that? Now, I know this seems a little heavy or whatever for a podcast about book publishing, but this is part of the process. I don't want you to ever come on the Author's Corner podcast thinking that I'm just going to give you some writing, tips and, techniques and strategies and things like that, and then we're not going to really get to the meat of things, because this is part of the process when you're telling your story. So you have to know that once your book is out there, it's out there. It's out there for people to critique, have their opinion, nitpick, all of the things. And it's also out there to save someone's life, to change someone's life, to transform someone's life, to help somebody understand that they could be healed and whole too. So there's a balance, but you have to be ready to accept both, because both are going to come to you with questions. And you have to know that you are ready to answer those questions. So you have to be emotionally prepared. You have to be emotionally prepared. So here's some practical safeguards, okay? So I want you to write these down. 1, protect other people's privacy. So when you're telling your story and it's your story, this is one that you lived out, make sure you protect other people's privacy. So you might want to change names if necessary. And I changed names in my book. You want to avoid exposing details that aren't yours to tell. So you want to stick to only telling your story. You can't talk about somebody else's story, your mama's story, your daddy's story. You can't talk about their story when you don't know full detail. All you can do is include them in your story and talk about how you experienced them in your life. Now, unless you sat down and you had a conversation with this person and you know details about things and you got their permission to put it in your book, then all you can do is keep everything centered on you. You can't just, put everybody's stuff out there. Your testimony is yours, but someone else's trauma isn't automatically your content. So even if you had somebody that experienced the same trauma that you experienced, they were right there along with you, you can't tell their story. They can only tell their own story. You have to tell your own. You have to tell your own. And then number 2, I want you to write with purpose, not revenge. So if your motivation is, I'm going to tell what they did to me, you need to pause. If you're only writing a book and telling the story to get revenge, to expose somebody, to make somebody, look bad and all that kind of stuff, then you need to pause. Now, I'm not saying that you excuse what they did or what happened, but you got to make sure that your heart is right. Because see, if you're bitter and you're full of rage and you're full of revenge and you're full of unforgiveness, what do you think that's going to do to your reader? How do you think that's going to show up with the person who's reading your book? They're consuming your story. They're consuming your content. So this just is not about you. So you may need to just, get you a journal and just write out, or get you something that you can type up, get you a Word doc and just type up everything that you feel, how you feel, real raw, and let that be it pertaining to that situation. So you got to check your motive. But if your motive is someone needs hope, then move forward. Because when you're looking outside of yourself to somebody else, then that means you healed. You're healing. You're moving towards wholeness. Because you understand that you understand that your story has purpose. You understand that your story is going to change lives. You understand that you are a kingdom scribe. So understand that intent matters. So you just can't be out here writing just to write. Be intentional about what you're doing. Because remember, your words are seeds. And you're sowing seeds into other people, into their hearts, into their minds, into their lives. What type of fruit do you want that seed to bear? And then number 3, create emotional boundaries. You can share honestly without sharing everything. And you can be transparent without being exposed. So you don't have to put everything out there. Again, ask God what you need to say. What part of your story you need to tell and how you need to tell it. Vulnerability is strength, but oversharing without wisdom can cause harm to you and others. Now, I know when it came to my book, there were things that I talked about in my book, and it was my experience with that person or that family or whatever. And there were some people that were mad at me. And it was okay for them to be mad at me. There were some people that questioned me. And it was okay for them to have their questions. But it didn't change my story, because I knew that I was using wisdom. I was being vulnerable. I was being transparent. I was being honest. And I was telling my story from my point of view, my perspective, and my experience. And I wasn't going to apologize for that. Now, they may have dropped the ball, and they dropped the ball, but I wasn't going to apologize for telling the story. And if it rubbed them the wrong way, then they need to do some inner healing with themselves. But I wasn't going to change anything, because I knew that I was telling my story from a good place. I wasn't just being spiteful or, doing stuff out of revenge. No. I was telling my story because I knew that me being free and telling the truth would help somebody else be free and tell their own truth. So remember this: God doesn't require you to re-traumatize yourself for the sake of impact. If there's a space and place in your life that you are not ready to share with the world, do not share it. Don't re-traumatize yourself trying to be impactful, trying to get likes, trying to get following, trying to go viral. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Love yourself enough to respect yourself and others, and say, when it's time to tell a story, if it ever is time, then I'll tell it. But right now, that's between me and God, and I'm going to allow God to do the work in me that needs to be done. So healing comes first. Publishing comes second. Don't get so caught up trying to have a title of being an author and getting so caught up in trying to get the coins and all the glitz and glam of the book industry that you cause yourself more pain. That you don't gain anything, but more pain. Because you were too busy trying to reach a status than allowing yourself to be healed in the process. So now let's talk about turning pain into purpose. So now here's the powerful part. Your pain has potential. Romans 8:28 says that God will use all things for our good according to his purpose. He will use all things for our good. Not some things, all things for our good. But you have to let him know what part is for your good. And that will bring him glory. But pain by itself is just pain. So your pain has potential, but pain by itself is just pain. It's just pain. So it becomes purpose when you reflect on it, you learn from it, you allow God to redeem it, and you choose to use it to serve others. Not yourself, because if you're using it to serve yourself, then all you doing is operating in self-pity and manipulation. Because now you got a motive. You're trying to get people to feel sorry for you so that way you can get what you want to get from them. And you'll use your pain to manipulate them. That ain't right. And you're going to reap what you sow from that if that's what you're doing. So when you tell your story through the lens of growth, readers see, if she survived, maybe I can too. If he overcame, maybe I'm not stuck. If God restored them, maybe he can restore me. You help people to see that there's another option. Because what life and people have been telling them is that the situation that they went through and where they are in life is always where they're going to be and nothing can change. But when you come along with your story, when you come along with the blueprint, when you come along with the roadmap, they're like, wait a minute. I don't have to stay here. I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to live in self-pity. I don't have to manipulate people. I don't have to sit around here and just woe is me and feel like that I'm all alone. I don't have to do any of that. I can be free. I can be restored. I can survive through this, and not just survive, but thrive. So purpose-driven writing asks these questions. What transformation happened? So when you look back over your story, do you see the transformation? Write about that. What mindset shift occurred? Tell the people, walk the people through how your mind went from being how you went from being maybe a double-minded person to a sound-minded person. Because that takes work. And it takes work every day to continue to have a sound mind. It ain't just a one-stop shop or, one-time thing. No, you have to continue to renew your mind daily, but you have to continue to make the choice to renew your mind daily. So that means that you have to continue to pray and decree and declare that I have the mind of Christ. So what spiritual growth took place? How did your relationship with God change? How did your prayer life change? How did your desire to read the word of God change? How did it change allowing Holy Spirit to lead you and guide you in all truth? And then what hope can you offer? What hope can you offer your reader? So your book doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be honest and helpful. Readers are not looking for superheroes. They're looking for survivors. We got enough superhero movies out here. And we got enough people that's walking around here trying to be everybody's superhero. But in the midst of the crowd of those that are looking for their superhero, somebody's like, look, I just want to get to know somebody who just made it through. I want to get to know somebody who just got on the other side of impossible. I just want to get to know somebody who done made it out the hood. Because everybody over here is saying you never can leave. You never, and if you do leave, you're not leaving in a good way. You either leaving in a body bag or you leaving with handcuffs. Like, it's not a good thing that's happening when you leave. But I need to know that somebody's surviving. And then you don't want to stop just showing them. You don't want to stop at just showing them that you survived. You want to let them know I'm thriving too. That's a whole nother level. I'm getting to wholeness. That's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level. So you may be asking, how is sharing your testimony a blessing for your readers? So let's talk about testimony. So Revelations 12:11 tells us that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. There is power in testimony. There is power in your testimony. When you share your story, you give language to somebody else's silent struggle. You validate emotions that they thought were crazy. You break shame and you create community. You help people to get free. You help people to understand, like, I didn't think that I was able to do this. And this goes for those like that, like, write those DIY books. Like if you're teaching somebody how to do credit repair, or you're teaching somebody how to build a business, all of that, you can still tell your story in the midst of that, because something had to happen in your life for you to be able to know what you know. So you don't have to show up polished as the expert. You can show up as that person who's saying, look, my credit was jacked up. And I was trying to figure out a way of how to get things going, because I'm trying to buy a house. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. Let people know where you came from. Share your testimony so that they can understand, like, you know what? I can be free from this. I don't have to continue to live like this. Shame thrives in secrecy, but testimony breaks isolation. So somebody is sitting in secrecy because of their shame, but your testimony is going to come and break them out of it. That's why I keep telling you, Kingdom Scribe, that our stories are going to change lives one book at a time. We're not just here just writing books just to write books, just to be on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, just to tell people, where to go purchase our book on the website, which we want you to go purchase them books. But we're here to change lives. We're here to give our book to someone and say, here's your freedom papers. Look what the Lord has done in my life. Someone reading your story may whisper, I thought I was the only one. I had somebody that read my book, The Reflection of Me, and it's about my story surviving domestic violence. And they read my book and they was like, I did not realize that when I was in this relationship with so-and-so, that was an abusive relationship. They were like, I was so used to toxic things that I didn't realize that I was wrapped up in a lot of abusive relationships. And the reason why they didn't recognize that they were in an abusive relationship, because it wasn't physical. So it was a bunch of verbal abuse and emotional abuse. But because they have dealt with toxic people, they kind of learn how to deal with those type of people. So all it was like, oh no, I'm a comeback king. I'm comeback kid. I'm finna come back with whatever. You talk smart, I'm gonna talk smart. You get a little jazz, I'm gonna get a little jazz. I'm gonna match your fly. When neither one of them were right, and none of it was good. But if I didn't write my book because I was so worried about domestic violence being a broad topic and everybody talking about domestic violence and what can I add to the narrative of domestic violence, if I never talked about it, they would have never realized that, hey, I don't have to accept being in these toxic relationships. I don't have to accept that. So allow somebody's healing to begin by you sharing your testimony. So your testimony encourages faith. It strengthens resilience. It restores hope. And it reminds people that God is still writing stories. And sometimes the very chapter you were embarrassed about becomes the chapter that changes someone's life. The very chapter that you were like, I don't know about this chapter. This is real heavy and hard for me. Is the chapter that sets somebody free. Is a chapter that has somebody screaming from the rooftops that I can survive this. I don't have to stay here. I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to live this type of life. I don't have to accept this. It can change someone's mind, change someone's heart, change the way they hear things, change the way they see things. Your story, your testimony has power. So let me give you some more practical steps so you can start writing from healing. So if you're thinking now, you've been listening to me all this time. So if you're thinking, okay, I'm ready, but where do I begin? Here are your starting points, okay? So step 1, you're going to journal before you manuscript. So start privately, no pressure, no formatting, just truth, just free write. Don't try to make sure the semicolons are here, the commas is here, the periods is here, your paragraph structure is right. No, just write. And then step 2, you're going to identify the lessons. Every painful season has a takeaway. What did you learn from it? And if you're like, I don't know, I don't remember, ask Holy Spirit to bring it back to your remembrance. And if you're one to say, well, I don't really have a relationship with God like that, you can today pray and say, God, I want to get to know you. God, lead me in your word to salvation. And he will lead you in his word to salvation. And then once you become one of his, and of course you want to get baptized and you want to get filled with the Holy Spirit, then God will start bringing things back. Then you ask him, God, bring it back. Bring back those painful seasons. But instead of me just dealing and focusing on the trauma, show me the lesson in what I endured. And then if you do give your life to God and you know, all of that happens, please let me know. Please let me know. Because I want to celebrate you. I want to celebrate you. I want to walk with you because salvation is key for life. And I'm not just talking about life here on earth. I'm talking about eternal life. We need God here and over there. But we need him here first so we can be assured to get in over there, okay? So then step 3 is outline the journey. So you want to talk about the struggle. You want to talk about your turning point. You want to talk about the transformation. And you want to talk about the takeaway. You want to lead them from point A to point B in your book. Your reader should feel like they riding with you. They walking with you. They're growing with you. They should feel the transition in your book. If they in chapter 6 and they still feeling like what you felt like in chapter 1, all you did was make an extended version of chapter 1. And it's no purpose in it. I want you to pray over your words. So ask God, what should I share? What should I protect? And who is this for? Because you have to know who your target reader is. So the practical things and the all the things that I have taught you pertaining to writing and book publishing. And you're like, well, this is my first episode. Well, then go back to season 2 and 3 and 4. Because there's a lot of educational information that you're going to need on this book publishing journey. So writing from healing is not just creative work. It is spiritual stewardship. This heavy. And it's going to cost you something. But it's going to be an amazing reward on the other side. Amazing reward on the other side. Now, if you're one that's saying, like, Tiffany, I don't think I can do this by myself. You don't have to do it by yourself. We have a Kingdom Scribe Writers community on Facebook that you can join. You don't have to write by yourself. You don't have to walk down this journey by yourself. You can collab with other authors that have walked down the journey of being healed while they're writing so that somebody else can overcome. Go join the community. We're going to do away with this isolation stuff. Like, we cannot help ourselves. Because if we can help ourselves, then we wouldn't need anybody else. But God said it is not good for man to be alone. So therefore, you need community. And we have what you need. So if you've been hesitating to write because your story feels messy, I want to remind you, God specializes in messy. I mean, come on now. We were created from the dust of the earth. So he don't mind getting his hands dirty. He don't mind dealing with the mess. Your pain is not wasted. Your tears were not pointless. And your survival was not an accident. But I want you to know that your voice matters. Your voice matters. So you're not writing just to publish a book. You are writing to release healing. And as Kingdom Scribes, we understand that our stories are not just about glorifying the pain. They're about glorifying God who brought us through it all. See, somebody may not go to a church for their first time, but they may get your book. And everything about God and everything they need to know will be in your book. He will speak to them through your book. God will use anything that is made available to him to reach those that he loves, to reach the lost, anything. And it could be your story that he uses to draw somebody in, to help somebody to know that he is real. Because sometimes we go through so much pain that we feel like God is not real because of the pain that we're going through, until somebody shows us differently and say, yes, he said that you would deal with trials and tribulations, but he also said that he overcame the world. So be of good cheer. You got a God who has the blueprint. All you have to do is ask him and then believe in what he tells you and just do it. And that goes for you too when it comes to your book. Know that your book is the blueprint. Know that your book is the very tool that God will use. Let him use you. Your story matters. Your voice matters. We are Kingdom Scribes who are changing lives one book at a time. Let God use you. Let God use you. So if this episode blessed you, share it with another writer who needs encouragement to tell their story. And I want you to remember, writing from healing, write with wisdom, and write with purpose. I'm going to say them one more time for you. Write from healing, write with wisdom, and write with purpose. Because your testimony may be the key that unlocks someone else's freedom. So, do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. You're brave, you're strong, you're capable, you have the capacity to allow your pain to go into purpose. So that not only you can be healed and whole, but your reader can too. So until next time, Kingdom Scribes, love you much.
We are Kingdom Scribes.